Hi, I'm Kerry and welcome to Tea Time with Tech Marketing Leaders. We are live on both YouTube and LinkedIn, so if one fails, go check out the other. Also, if you're here with us, I can't see you unless you comment and let us know that you're here. It's so helpful to know who's joining us so we can look out for your questions, oh, I hope you've brought your questions, y'all, because what a conversation we are about to unpack today. And what I love about this conversation is it's not a typical marketing conversation, it's a team building and culture and company one that I all feel like we're in desperate need of as we walk into the glorious Q4. I don't know if Q4 is a challenge for most, but it is certainly a challenge for us. And so being ahead of the game, being prepared, and being ready to rock and roll is really helpful. And this conversation is certainly going to help us do that. Today I have with me Sophie Hedestad. Sophie, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you. Sophie has a very interesting, a similar story to mine. Marketer turned CEO. It's a transition. It's a new world.
Yes. So I was starting off my career in sales, and then I went over to marketing, and now I went over to CEO. But the company I work for, Nox, is quite small, so we're a startup. We're 5 employees currently. So yeah, small startup, but quite
Very startup.
exciting.
Oh, I love that. Oh, you're like in the thick of it. Yes. And Knox is a platform for goal setting success. With their platform, you can set goals, visualize goals, communicate, follow up, and take action on all of your goals. We're going to define what all of this means in a second. Don't panic in terms of what goals means lots of things to lots of different people. What is that? We're going to unpack it. Don't panic. But what a curious story, Sophie, of how you've gone from marketer to CEO. So, can you just tell us that journey? Bring us along. How did you go? How did you get into marketing? Because whether marketing found us or we found marketing is always a curious journey. And then, how did you make that leap to CEO? What's that story?
So just to go back maybe like 13 years ago, I graduated from university and I started a sales job within SaaS, so software as a service.
Mhm.
And I was doing sales for quite many years. But I was very curious doing marketing for many, many years as well. So I talked about the marketing career with my manager quite early when I was doing sales. And there was an opportunity, and I got the opportunity to take on doing marketing. So it was a little bit by coincidence, like a lot of things happens in life, and yeah, so I ended up doing marketing that I, of course, have also wanted to do for many, many years. And the step to CEO, I think it comes from like a very curiosity building product and building teams and building SaaS services. So I got this idea for a tool, and I have two lovely co-founders, Matilda and Robert. Yeah, it was not a planned step. It was more coming from an idea that the three of us wanted to uh, come to reality. Yeah, so that's the steps.
Oh my gosh. Before we unpack all of the things, can you remind us, Sophie, where? So, thank you, Frida Arenby. I love this global element. I love being in the UK. I feel so much more connected to the world between I'm actually having a conversation with somebody who's in Australia in a few weeks. So tell us where you are, Sophie, and how you feel like bringing your product online for your specific community has really come to fruition.
Yeah, I'm located in Stockholm, but I will work with a global product, of course. And yeah, I think it's super exciting, not only working, within Sweden, Stockholm, in the Nordics. I'm quite curious to work with other countries and regions as well. So I'm excited to see what regions we will launch in. I think we are looking into the Nordics in the beginning, but I think US is a market that we want to approach as soon as we can. That's exciting.
And you're not alone. It's so beautiful, the companies that are coming out of the Nordics. So we have Get Accept, who I interviewed Frida Ehrenby. Oh my gosh, it must have been 2 years ago. She keeps the gift that keeps on giving. That is Frida. And then last week, I just interviewed someone who's also in Sweden who has a product called datadream.io. And so the work that is coming out of Sweden is magical right now. And I love that you're trying to go global, because I think that's really, I think we're a global society now, whether we're feeling that or not just yet. We'll see what happens, but I just love being in the UK and being connected to all these countries and meeting people like yourself. So thank you for joining me, Sophie, and for bringing your product and vision to the market on a global scale. I think what you're doing is really important and impactful. Before we get there, tell us a challenge you're facing. What's on your mind? What's keeping you up at night? What's hard?
I mean, we're starting up a new business, so it's a lot of things that is difficult, of course. I think what's constantly on our minds is like developing our product, validating it with potential customers, and thinking about growth. I mean, how we can launch this product successfully in the Nordics, but also globally. So that is something that is definitely on my mind and the team's mind. So it's a lot of things, but I guess the growth is something that we will all want to see.
Always, growth is always.
Yeah, we want to build a qualitative product as well, but I think we're quite confident that we're onto something with the tool. It's what we can see and test so far is that it has a amazing user experience that I have not experienced before. So I'm quite confident and proud of the product, but then it's always executing, sales and marketing to get the growth that we would want.
It's very unusual to run into a founder who's also has a marketing background. How do you feel like that's really lended itself to bringing this product onto the scene?
I mean, it's something that is really important because marketing, I mean, it's also digital sales channels, lead generation, and so on. So it's very important for the company's growth, of course, to understand how we can use the website and other channels to get inbound leads and to raise awareness and to build a brand. So it's many aspects, of course, that is beneficial in launching a new product and tool. And I think I also have a background in sales, so I will do a lot of marketing and sales, which is quite nice because then I will take care of the full customer journey in a way, also customer success and, the full customer journey really. And Robert is making sure we have a great tool. He's building that, and Matilda is doing a lot of product and marketing. So we're actually completing each other in a really nice way because we have so different skill sets and work well together. So we're looking forward to launch this tool.
You have a full leadership team before you even are launch. Oh my gosh, it's every new business's dream right there, the trio of you. Wow. Where were you all? Were you together? I don't normally do this story, and I'm starting another podcast called Tea Time with Tech Founders, where I hope to unpack this more with folks, but we're here and we're having the conversation. So let's just have it. Where were you? Were you all together? Did somebody spark the idea? How did this, where did this product generate from? And then how did it take? How did you all come together to make it happen? Tell me this founder story.
Yeah, the founder story. No, but in my previous company, I was running the OKRs process, let's say, so objectives and key results, which is the goal setting. It is one goal setting framework that a lot of tech companies uses these days, and it's growing more and more popular as well. And as I was responsible for this process, I was doing a lot of research on both methodology but also tools you can use to get the whole organization really engaged and excited about goals. And I did extensive research on this, and I didn't find any tools out there that was really having an amazing user experience. And also I felt like a lot of tools out there was built for management teams, and not for employees. So employees was not really excited to log into this kind of tools and execute towards goals. So yeah, it was a problem area. And then I found my co-founders on LinkedIn, actually. So we didn't work together before. I had this idea. We came together. We discussed it for many months and weeks and so on, and decided that this was something we would want to try out together because we believe in it. And we took some references on each other as well, and it turned out really well.
Amazing. I'm collaborating with a few folks on LinkedIn right now around some ideas. Nothing that's actually coming to fruition just yet, but it is a magical place to find like-minded people to say, hey, I'm seeing this thing. Tell me whether you're seeing this thing or not, and if I'm a crazy person, because it's nice to have that level set of folks you can build and cultivate relationships with. So yes to that. Love it. Yes. Let's talk about OKRs. I always want to call them OPRs. I don't know why. I think that's a different thing. We're going to get into it. Goal setting. I mean, it was so important to you to figure out how to do goal setting that you actually built a product for it as a marketer. So talk to me about, first of all, what does goal setting mean to you? Because I think when a lot of us hear goal setting as marketers, we're like, yeah, the company needs to hit X amount of targets from a revenue standpoint, and we're on the hook from a marketing and sales standpoint. So yes, I know what OKRs are, Sophie, you don't need to, but we're talking about something different here. We're not talking about company targets. We're talking about goals as it relates to, it's different. So I'm not going to pretend I know. I'm going to let you tell us, Sophie, what is goal setting in this sense when you're talking about OKRs?
So I think most people know about KPIs because that is something, of course, companies are measuring continuously, and often it's about sales numbers, how the company is growing year over year, month over month, or whatever they are tracking. So that is KPIs, and it's more like a single data point that you will track them. So OKR is a framework, and it's more like a leadership style as well, that you want to get people excited about. I would say KPIs is also a bit like micromanaging in a way, because OKRs is also kind of including people, engaging people to help out setting the goals as well. So it's a framework to get people excited and to get people included. And you can decide if you want to set the OKRs on a yearly cadence or a quarterly cadence. So I would say, like, maybe a huge company, it would be better maybe to set like a yearly cadence, but for a startup, a quarterly cadence might be better. So it depends what kind of company you are and what would work better for you. And OKR stands for objective and key results. So objective is basically a focus area. It should be quite exciting and inspiring for employees. So it should not be like growing our company 30% or whatever it could be. It should be maybe something you would get excited about, like create an awesome customer experience, or new logos equals go to Ibiza. I don't know what your employees will get excited about, but you want to visualize something with this objective, like why people would probably get more excited about creating an awesome customer experience rather than upselling customer, let's say. So objective is about creating excitement and the focus area that the company will have. And and the key results is how you will measure it. So that is more similar to KPI then. So how will you measure if you have an awesome customer experience? You can do that by tracking net retention rate, how you're growing your companies over time, net promoter score, different customer satisfaction tools that you want to use, measuring if your customer are having an amazing experience with you. That is objective is a focus area, and key result is how you will measure if you achieved your focus area. So that is kind of the basic. And then you want SMART goals as well. So you want them to be like specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time bound. And that is something you will also, of course, use in that.
All right. Before you spill the tea all over the place here, Sophie, and how we do this thing, let's sit in the moment of the importance. So it's really helpful to know what OKRs mean, and ubiquity isn't something isn't a word we hang out with all the time. So I think it's really important to understand the difference of that, and really sitting in the thing that excites you. I want to add an and to that, but we're going to come back to it. Why is it important for people within an organization to want to do this? This sounds like, playing devil's advocate here, Sophie, sounds like more work. Why are you making more work for me?
So I think, if you are like 1 to 10 employees or like a really small company, then you can talk to each other a lot. And you can have good relationships with a fewer amount of people, and you can discuss what you want to achieve and so on. And communication is quite easy in chat channels and so on. But as your company grows, you get over 50 employees, let's say, this communication is not that easy. So for you to communicate your growth goals or the goals for the company, it's important to have like a framework and a goal setting process where top management, middle management, senior managers, and employees are aligned. Like, what are we working towards together? Everyone show up at work, work really hard every day. And if everyone is running on different things all of the time, you will not achieve your vision in the end, and you will not achieve the yearly goals in the end. So it might require some more work in the beginning to streamline and to align and to have that communication. But if you do not have it, you will not grow as an individual, grow your company. So it's important to create clarity for employees and create alignment and also enable execution to create a good culture as well, I would say. Because if you would not do it, you will probably be frustrated because you do not, managers are not communicated what is expected from you and your team and the company. So I think it's really important for growing your business and for also more soft things that people will not be engaged if they do not know where you're heading.
Ownership comes to mind. It's all well and good for us to put company targets ahead and say, we need to grow by X% by the end of the year. But as an individual, unless I'm sales with like clear commissions and whatever, all that stuff. But like as an individual outside of sales, like I don't know how to contribute to that. And so in boiling down in a very oversimplistic way, it feels like that's what you're giving power back to the employee to take ownership of how they sit within the organization to then contribute to the company targets in the long run, or short term in terms of quarter versus long term versus annual.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot of, it's not like you have one meeting with your employees and you communicate the goals. I think it would be some back and forth communication. So maybe you in the management team communicates the broader vision and what you want to achieve and the growth goals for the next years. And then maybe you hand over to the team leads, like, based on the information you got here today, like what will your team contribute with? And then you would go back having workshops with your team and align on how you think you can support this this goal from the company. And I mean, even a finance department could support the customer journey. They can create like an awesome invoicing experience, let's say. They could think about that. And for marketing, that is not maybe picking up the phone and doing sales. They want to, of course, contribute with leads to sales, and they also want to raise brand awareness, and they want to grow website traffic, and that also requires key results and, of course, like growth mindset to do that.
A growth mindset. Let's sit there for a second, because I don't know that everybody understands what it means as an individual contributor, what it means to have a growth mindset. So can you shed some light on that for us? What does that mean to have a growth mindset?
Yeah, I think there is like a saying that you can have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. And a fixed mindset is that you kind of maybe are not that open to possibilities. And a growth mindset is that you're always curious to iterate and to try new things. Yeah, and I think if you have a growth mindset, you're also in a good place, I would say, in a company where you thrive, where you can have a growth mindset, of course, as well. But yeah, I think objectives and clear results and clear goals and clear vision and aligning between teams and employees will foster a growth mindset. I don't know if that was the answer to your question, Kerry, but yeah.
No, I think it's important because we throw this word around a lot as entrepreneurs who naturally have a growth mindset. We wouldn't have started a company if we didn't, right? We're curious about how can we make the world a better place by doing what it is that we do, by bringing the services, the product to the world that we want to bring. And we do that by asking a lot of questions. What if, right? But as employees who want to show up and do a good job, contribute to the organization, and then go home to their families who don't have an entrepreneurial mindset, it feels awkward to be like, what do I need to be curious about? Why do I need to care? And like, what does this mean? And so I think bringing it back to the employee and everything that you're saying is it's about individual growth within your career, and then how to contribute to the organization, because in order for the organization to thrive, it needs you, and it can't thrive without you, and it can't be here tomorrow to ensure you have a job unless you can continue to show up and do the great work you do, which you can't do with a fixed mindset of I'm doing the best I can in the most moment today, take it or leave it. Like that's just not going to fly, especially in a startup. Like you have to show up with curiosity and wonder and question of, well, I understand we've been doing it this way, but is that really the best way we should be doing it? Or is there a better way and a more streamlined way? How are we going to give the best customer experience? Is this really the best way we can give the best customer experience, or is there a better way? And just sitting in that wonder rather than being like, this is how I was told to do this thing, so this is just how I'm going to do this thing. There's just two very different ways of approaching it. And one way is going to allow you to grow within your career and within the organization. And another way, you're going to, at some point, be told, thank you for doing the best you can in the way that you did it. But now is the time for you to go elsewhere. Like, you're going to top out at some point. And I think OKRs open up a way for people to find that curiosity that maybe they didn't have before. Just because you have a fixed mindset today doesn't mean you have to have a fixed mindset tomorrow.
No, of course not. No. Yeah, I mean, if you look at your whole life, it could be periods of time where you have a fixed mindset, and it could be other areas and other times that you had a growth mindset. So it's not fixed for life, I would say. It's but a person probably experience both, I guess.
Go through stages.
Yeah.
You go through stages. Yeah. So talk to me, Sophie, about one of the hardest part of any goal setting is starting.
Yeah, it's finding
Where
that
do you
good
start?
balance. Yeah, I mean, some companies and some cultures, company cultures might want a lot of direct communication where it's communicated directly what is expected from the organizations, and some organizations might want to be included a lot into the goal setting and so on. So it's really finding that balance, communicating clear goals, but also including people in the right way. And then I think, these iterations where you go back and forth and discuss what goals or what objectives and key results should a certain department have. I think, yeah, in the end, you need to discuss or just set the goals and move on and start working towards that goal. Because
Does it start from the top down or from the bottom? Like, where does the goal setting does the company set the targets for the year of like, okay, this is the amount we need to grow and these are the targets we need to hit. So how within the organization are we going to make that happen? Or is it more of the organization coming and saying, okay, we think based off of where we want to go for the year, these goals that we've set, that we can then go do this? Like, what's sort of who starts the process?
So I guess the ultimate process would be the CEO together with the management team have an idea of the goals, and they would go to the boards and anchor these goals with them. And if they give thumbs up, they will go to the employees and say, like, these are the goals based on these assumptions and this analysis that we have done. So I think that would be the ultimate process, but I think goal setting is very complex as well. I mean, it's a lot of stakeholders and a lot of wills within the management team, senior leadership, middle leadership, boards. So in the end, it's probably not that streamlined as I told you. And that could be a part of why it's getting complex as well, that it's a lot of people saying different goals and documenting different goals in different digital locations, and it's hard to follow, like, who's deciding and what goals did we agree on in the end. But I guess, like, simplify it and have a streamlined process for it. And in this process, it could be good, I mean, to have a steady leadership team that has been working in this cadence for many years, because I would say goal setting cadence or OKR cadence is, if you start today, you might be happy about the process 12 months later, because then you went through, all the months in a year, and then the second year you want to iterate that, and the third year you might feel a bit more comfortable with the process. So I think experience and having people with experience how to do strategy and goal setting could be beneficial as well.
From personal experience of having set goals for the last few years, the one thing that I have learned, take it or leave it. And Sophie, I'd love your opinion on this. As a leadership team, I don't think it is our responsibility to set goals for the rest of the team. Targets, yes. These are the things we need to accomplish this year as an organization. How you all figure out how we get there should be up to the boots on the ground. I just found that so many times my business partner and I would set goals for the rest of the organization and none of them would happen. And we'd be like, why aren't these goals getting done? And why aren't you guys doing these things? Like, it's not a priority because it's not going to be the thing that moves us in the direction that we need to go. So none of us care.
No, but I think, the ultimate goal setting process is definitely not set by the management team for all teams and departments. It should be the broader goals for the company. So it would be maybe the growth goal. And the fewer goals you set on the top, the better it is for the employees to understand them and to make sense of them. So I think when management team has communicated the broader goals, then the teams, of course, should set their objectives and their key results. If we talk about the OKR framework, it is.
We'll get there.
We'll
get there in a second. One last question before we get there.
Yeah.
Should the framework that we're about to walk through, everybody should go through that framework, right? On a team level, like the way I set goals as leadership should be, we should all be following the same process. Or is it different depending on where you are within the organization?
I think the process could be similar. So if you have a workshop where you brainstorm the goals, probably you would know the goals because they are quite recurring for a lot of departments. So I would say like communication from management, what are the broader goals, and then the teams would workshop what can we do to support this company-wide goals. And then on individual level, you would have conversations with your manager, how you can contribute to the team goals. So I guess it will drill down, and I'm not suggesting like a strict top-down approach here. I'm suggesting it would be a bit communication up and down. And I think if you have a certain position, you would know a lot better what would be impactful in your role than someone else, of course. So I think decentralizing as much as possible would be the preference.
I love that. I think that's really important. I love that you're saying it shouldn't be top down, but it should be fluid.
Yeah, flow.
Should always be open. Okay, let's talk about SMART goals. Let's spill the tea here on the framework here, Sophie, and talk me through the framework. So it starts with S.
So that's specific. And then we have M, which is measurable. And then we have attainable. And then we have relevant and time-bound. So I think, OKRs should, when you have your objectives and key results, I think they can follow the SMART goals as well, that they are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound.
All right, let's talk about each of these. I take notes, y'all, because it helps me focus, so bear with me. Specific. What does specific mean? What does specific mean?
Yeah, specific. Let's talk about the non-specific then. Like,
okay.
Non-specific would be, let's do the best we can to get customers or something like that. I don't know if that was a good one, but but specific would be like get more customers could be specific goal. Or
I'm going to be really obnoxious and really poke the bear on that one. What does get more customers mean?
Yeah, sorry, that is more like an objective, I would say. So specific, uh, yeah, I'm not, I don't have a good answer. It should be specific. It should be clear and concise and easy to grasp.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's important. So one of the things that we do, and I just walked my team through this, and if you follow me on LinkedIn, you would have seen a screenshot of a brief synopsis of me doing this. We follow the traction framework, which uses
Mhm.
SMART goals, which is really
Mhm.
helpful. But in the traction framework, we follow a process in terms of how we define our meetings. So it's called IDS, issue, discuss, and solve. So every week or 2 weeks, depending on how often you meet, you talk about the issues within your team. What things are we struggling with today? And can we solve it in this moment? If we can't solve it in this moment, then we need to move it to the issues board. And every week we come back to the issues board. All right, we still have these issues. Have we solved them? Have we figured out what do we do about them? What are the tasks coming out of this? And if we can't figure it out, it needs to become a goal because we need to clearly this is an issue and it's a roadblock in our way. So it's a very specific thing. Let me see if I can come up with an example. So an example would be we have a tool. We have this tool that we've been using for a long time, but it's causing us tremendous energy and effort, and it breaks constantly. Is this really the tool we should be using? If it keeps coming up and we keep bringing it up, is this really what we should be using? No. Okay, let's move that to a rock, to a goal, a specific goal where we're going to figure out what we should be using and how it's going to help us be more productive in getting our jobs done and to not have this thing be breaking all the time. Right. So that's like one example of how we figure out what a good goal should be is an issue that keeps coming up over and over again. And it's to Sophie's point, a very specific thing that's in our way. Have you heard of this? Have you used a similar framework in terms of like figuring out what clear problems keep coming up within an organization, Sophie?
I really like that issue discussion. And what did you say the last was
Solve.
solve it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
to solve it. No, but I like that, and I think I mean different goals have different importance, I guess. So if there is a quick solution, then you would solve it. And
yep.
if it would be like, as you give an example of buying a new tool or replacing a tool that doesn't work for you, then it maybe requires some week or so. But then, yeah, I think there are different time frames setting goals. So you have a vision, you have maybe 2 to 3 year plan, you have a 1 year plan, you have a quarterly plan, and you have a monthly plan. And this would be on the monthly maybe. So I think, that's a bit complex with goal setting, like the different time frames. But it's really important that you do these daily things, of course, to set goals and to work more efficiently.
I
I
like
think
that. Talk to me more about the time frame of things. So, when do you set does the goal setting depend on what the goal is that you then define how long it should be a goal for, or is it you set the time frame and then you define the goal?
so. I think a company would typically have a vision, which could be like 10 year horizon, and then like the 2 to 3 year plan. That's your strategy in a way, like how we will what what are our goals in 2 to 3 years, because you want to have it's kind of attached to the vision, right? And then you would
Yeah.
probably have a yearly goal, because so you have owners that might expect growth and certain sales numbers from your company. And then you would have quarterly goals. So I think when it comes to teams, you should maybe have like a yearly goal and a quarterly goal. You might not talk to your team about what's our 2 to 3 year goals, because that should maybe not be discussed in a team level. But I think on an individual level and team level, you want to understand how you will move the needle for a year at least, and for a quarter would be more initiatives, like exactly what will we do to get the yearly goal, and then you might work in scrums or sprints and break it down even further. So I think, yeah, thinking of it as time horizons could be a simple way to grasp it a little bit, not make it
One
that.
thing you said, yeah, one thing you said that I think is really important that we sort of lose sight of when we're in the thick of it as leadership and VPs, like VPs who are then, extending themselves into leadership, is the mission. I feel like we get so caught up in growth that we forget, why did we create this thing to begin with, and what's our goal in having this thing to keep going? Why do we exist?
Yeah, the purpose. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, and how that comes into your team. So when you set goals, we talked about specific, and we're gonna get into the other four in a minute. Coming back to that though, the mission and the vision and values, right? Vision, mission, value. Do the goals generally need to hit on those? You mentioned mission, but I mean, that's hard when you're like in the weeds of it and you're saying not necessarily. How do those come into play for the folks on the ground who are trying to set goals but are day to day?
Yeah, I definitely, I think, I have a triangle in my head now with a vision on top, and then I have mission, then I have strategy, then I would probably have OKRs, then I would have team OKRs, and individual OKRs, let's say. So I would have the vision on top, and that's steering the whole company. And you should revisit them when you are doing your OKRs. Probably, your goals would steer towards the vision. But that would be the North Star, right? Like that, what you're heading towards. And when you're onboarding employees and when you set goals, you should revisit this and have a look at it together and discuss it and remind yourself of your purpose and where you're going long term.
I'm going to harp on this because I think we tend, myself included, we tend to get stuck in growth, in goals being tied to growth. And I love just what you're saying about mission and coming back to, but why did you build the thing in the beginning?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you that companies often end up in aggressive growth goals. I guess owners would want the growth, but also like the management would want the growth because, it could be multiple things. You don't want to let go of employees because you have certain cash in and certain cash out, and if it doesn't add up, you need to reorganize yourself to be more efficient, and you don't want to do that. And being on a growth journey, if you work for a company with a lot of growth, you will probably learn a lot of new things. You will be able to buy tools, you will be able to buy education externally, you would invest in people, you will invest in tools, you will invest in your office, you will invest in a lot of things. But if you're a company out of cash, the opposite will happen. So I guess it's not only to fill the owner's pockets, it's also, to sustain people having a job and
I think that's important to note, right? Like we all get caught up in the feeling of needing to grow, but we forget why we need to grow. And I think when you're setting OKRs, coming back to that why is really helpful in getting unstuck from like just the need to hit numbers. Why are we trying to hit these numbers? What does it mean? I talk to my team about this all the time of I'm not here to create growth numbers for the sake of creating growth numbers. It's because I want you to have better benefits. I want you to be able to ask me for things that make logical sense without me having to find money in the cushions of the sofa. I want to be able to give you that flexibility that you need in life that isn't tied to constant outcomes of an organization. Like, I want there to be some give and take there. So coming back to the why is leadership, when you're asking your team to create OKRs, I think is really helpful. Like, well, why do I want this company to keep going? Not just because I have a job, but like, what does that job mean for me in my life? I spend 40 hours a week here. I want that to be like really intentional. What does that mean? And so I love that. In terms of being really intentional as an individual and coming back to the individual growth, which I think lends itself nicely to the measurement side of things, like that's the accountability, right? So if you're going to set goals as a team, as leadership, as a team, and as an individual, you have to know whether you've been successful or not at the end of the day, right? That's what the measurement means. How do you measure goals that are a bit more what's the word? It's like, I want a better customer experience. Well, what does that mean? Like, are you getting more? Are you having clients renew on a more regular basis? Are you having better open rates? Like, what does better customer experience mean from a measurement standpoint? Does it always come back? I guess my question is, now I'm saying it out loud, does it always come back to numbers, or are there other ways to measure success outside of like 1+1=2?
I think like measuring customer success or customer experience is quite, I mean, there are a lot of KPIs how you can do that. It's more like picking who you're going to choose and stick with them. I think what's more difficult, what I think you're trying to explain, is quality in work.
Yes.
So that is really difficult to measure, right? So that is often something you feel and see, like this person seemed very productive and the quality is always great. That is quality in work, but it does let's say it's a content person doing amazing quality in creating ebooks and reports. They are fantastic. And then you're measuring it by how many downloads they get. That's another kind of skill set you need to push them, right? So just because you publish them on your website, it doesn't gonna like, it's not going to be like word of mouth. Everyone, no one's going to talk about these reports if you don't do a lot of PR, sendouts, search engine optimize it, and so on. If you are measuring downloads and you're great in the outreach, but you have a really shitty report, then the ones that downloads it will not be going to be that happy. So you need quality in work, of course, as well. And that's quite difficult to measure.
I think it was something you're alluding to, which I think is important, is when you're setting OKRs as an individual, understanding your impact outwardly. So you may have created a beautiful report, but if nobody downloads it and sees it, then how do you know that you've been successful? Right? So then there's another part of the team that's being impacted there from a CRO standpoint, and who owns CRO and how you know your thing's going to be downloaded. And so I do think there does need to be somewhat of a top-down approach of like, as a team, we need to increase our conversion rate, as an example, right? Our conversion rates aren't very good. And because our conversion rates aren't very good, we're not getting as many leads as we probably could out of the lead gen that we're generating. So what can we do as a team to better this? And so, okay, so design's going to create a better design, but then what is the website team going to do to make sure that that thing gets downloaded on a more regular basis, right? So there needs to be a bit of cohesion around the organization in terms of You don't want to create, what I feel like you're saying, Sophie, is you don't want to create OKRs in a silo either. Like, you don't want to be top down, but you also don't want to be an island. Like, there needs to be a balance and open communication all around. But in some regard, it needs to start somewhere, whether it's at the leadership point or at the team standpoint, but there needs to be some collective goal before you do individual goal, I think is what I'm asking.
Yeah, it is difficult. So, like a designer, like a graphical designer, that is quality in work, right? And productivity and shipping new designs would be, I mean, important for that person to like deliver and have, yeah. But that's really difficult to measure, of course. So that, I guess, you would have maybe some ideas there as well. But I think, yeah, to have an exciting team spirit that the graphic designer wants to support its colleagues in doing their very best. So there are definitely roles that is difficult to measure on a hard metric.
Yeah, it needs to be a leader. The leadership person needs to be in line with what everybody's individual goals are of how they ladder up and how you're all going to work together. And it needs to be a collective. Let's talk about attainable. Attainable means that you can actually do it, but at the same time, you want it to be somewhat of a stretch. Like, is there a bound? What's your opinion on that when you talk about attainable?
Yeah, I agree with you. It needs to be stretch goals, so it needs to be ambitious. And with OKRs, it's always like, if let's say you set up 5 key results that you want to achieve for an objective, then if everything is green and you achieved 5, then you also in a way did not do your OKRs, maybe stretch goals, because it's also fine not to reach all goals. It could be learnings from them. But let's say like 2 or 3 is hit. Then I think you have you should have a chance reaching them for sure. And I guess attainable, I just remember when I was younger, I was working in a clothing store. And then we got this report, like the sales target was 1 million. I don't know, but it was huge. And we didn't, maybe it was this kind of more exclusive store, and it was on the top floor in a bigger mall, and we actually didn't get that many customers through the door. We maybe did okay sales, but I mean it was not attainable. So we never looked at the numbers really, because it was not everyone knew we were not going to hit them in a way.
Right.
Yeah, so I think they need to be inspiring at least, but I think they could be stretch goals and ambitious.
I think that's important in terms of the collective feeling like they're attainable, and then having some stretch goals within that. It's a balancing. This whole thing is feels like a teeter-totter, and you're balancing it all. What does relevant mean?
Yeah, that's a good question. Relevant. I mean, I think it is as simple as, let's say, the key result must match the objective in a way, right? Or what does it mean for you? What would you say, Kerry?
So a good example I have is so one of my goals for this quarter is to create a new podcast called Tea Time with Tech Founders. And why is that relevant? It's relevant because one of our new service lines is being a fractional CMO. And so I want to have conversations with founders to understand what their problems are and how we might better support either them directly or other founders like themselves, right? So it's relevant because it's tying to the overarching goal of this new service line as we're offering for MKG. Now, if I started a podcast around how to create awesome new footwear. Well, unless our clients are shoemakers like Nike, I'm not, that's probably not relevant. So making sure that your goals are in line with what you're actually trying to accomplish as an organization is where the relevancy comes in, right? So, and again, I think this is a great example. So now my measurement goal is that I want to make sure that I have at least 8 to 12 bookings in for next quarter, right? I'm going to launch this in October. I need 12 to fill the quarter. So I'm going to start now to get that backfilled, right? So that's my measurement of it. It's specific because I'm starting a new podcast, which is very specific in terms of what the thing is that I'm creating. And then my timetable is that I'm trying to do this in this quarter, starting for Q4. So that's a really great example of what a OKR could be as an individual contributor up into the organization. I'm going to start a new podcast. It's going to be for this audience in this time frame with this many bookings for the quarter. One question I had for you, Sophie, in terms of goals and something we sort of are challenged with an organization that happens a lot to us is how goals roll. So if you don't hit an OKR for this quarter and it's a quarterly goal, do you roll it into the next quarter, or do you just say, okay, we didn't hit it, but that's fine. That's fine. We just need to it'll happen when it happens, and it no longer needs to be a goal.
Yeah, I think you can roll over from another quarter to another. I mean, if it's important for your company, for your team, or for yourself, I think you can let the goal slide over to the next quarter.
Okay, that's helpful because we're never sure. Do we roll them? Do we keep them? What do we do? Trevor, I see you. I'm so glad you're here. Sophie, this has been incredibly helpful in terms of how we create OKRs and how we do it in a way that's smart, not necessarily from the top down, how we work together as an organization to ultimately reach not just our goals as a company, but our mission and our vision, and keeping sight of that. Any last final words for our listeners in terms of those who are like, I want to go do this thing? What's your final advice for those folks?
Oh, good question. But I think it doesn't need to be perfect. So you don't need to plan it for quarter and quarter and quarter, because it's going to end up in a way you didn't think anyways. So I think you can start small. I mean, if you want to go with the OKR framework, just set the objectives and key results. Set fewer goals than you think, like maximum 1 to 3 objectives and key results on company level, team level, and so on. So I think keep it really simple and just start and iterate and discuss how you can improve it over time. So yeah, do not look for perfection.
Perfection is the enemy.
Yeah.
All right, last question for you, Sophie, because you're more than a marketer and a CEO. What's your favorite hot beverage?
Sorry, what was that?
What's your favorite hot beverage? Is it tea? Is it coffee? Is it hot chocolate?
Oh, okay, hot beverage. Okay, I drink a lot of coffee, so I must say coffee.
And where's your favorite spot to sit and enjoy? Do you sit and enjoy it, or is it more of I got to get it in so that I can then get off to my day? What's sort of if you could sit and enjoy it, what would that feel like for you?
I really enjoy, when I get into the office in the morning and I drink a cup of coffee. I mean, the first one is really nice. The second one and third one is not that nice. I just drink it. But the first one is just really nice. Doesn't matter where I am, but in the office, answering some email, have it on the side.
Starting your day. I always tell my children to not start like engaging with, like, they can talk to me and have a like they can hang out with me, but don't ask me to do anything until I've had my cup of coffee,
Okay.
which I'm going to sit and enjoy in the conservatory and sip.
Yeah.
I'm not going to rush it.
No, that's nice.
Sophie, it was so great. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much, Kerry.
This episode, yes. Thank you for listening. If you found this episode helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. This episode is brought to you by MKG Marketing, our agency that accelerates the mission of B2B vendors via SEO, digital ads, and analytics. It's hosted by me, Kerry Gard, CEO and co-founder of MKG Marketing. Music mix and mastering done by the amazing team at MKG. And if you'd like to be a guest, please visit mkgmarketinginc.com to apply.